By the late summer, news of what happened on animal farms spread across half the county. Every day, the Snowball Napoleon sent out flight pigeons with instructions were to meet with the animals on neighboring farms to tell them the story of the rebellion and teach them the tune "The Beast of England." Well, since this time, Mr. Jones had spent sitting in the tap room of the Red Lion at Lexington, complaining to anyone who would listen of the monstrous injustice that he had suffered in being turned out of his own property by a pack of good-for-nothing animals. The other farmers sympathized in principle, but did not at first give him much help at heart. Each of them was secretly wondering whether he could not somehow turn his misfortune to his own advantage. It was luckily that the owners of two farms that had joined were permanently on bad terms. One of them, St. Foxwood, was a large, neglected, old-fashioned farm, much overgrown by woodland, with all the pastures worn out and its hedges disgracefully conditioned. Its owner, Mr. Pilkington, was an easygoing gentleman who spent much of his time fishing or hunting, according to the season. The other farm, which was called Pinchfield, was smaller and better kept. Its owner was Mr. Frederick, a tough, shrewd man, creatively involved in lawsuits with a name for driving hard bargains. These two disliked each other so much that it was difficult for them to come to an agreement, even in defense of their own interests. Nevertheless, they were both truly frightened by the rebellion on Animal Farm, and very anxious to prevent their own animals from learning too much about it. At first they pretended to laugh to scorn the idea of animals managing a farm for themselves. The whole thing would be over in a fortnight. They said they would put out the animals on Manor Farm. They insisted on calling it Manor Farm. They would not tolerate the name Animal Farm. They were repeatedly fighting amongst themselves and were also rapidly starving to death. When the time passed, the animals had evidently not starved to death. Frederick and Pilkington changed their tune and began to talk of terrible wickedness that flourished on Animal Farm. It was given out that the animals who practiced cannibalism, tortured one another with red-hot horseshoes, and had their females in common. What does that mean?
I don't know. Me neither. What? He said me neither.
That means they torture girls.
Might be.
Ahem.
Oh, please continue.
This was what came of the rebellion against the laws of nature, Frederick and Pilkington said. However, the stories were never fully believed. Rumors of a wonderful farm where human beings had been turned out, and the animals managed their own affairs, and they continued to circulate in vain and disoriented forms. And for about a year, a wave of rebelliousness ran through the countryside. Bulls, which have always been traceable, suddenly turned savage. Sheep broke down hedges and devoured clovers. Cows kicked to the pale over. Hunters refused their benches and shot their riders on the other side. Above all, the tune and even the words, the Beast of England, were known everywhere. It had spread with astonishing speed. The human beings could not contain their rage when they heard this song, though they pretended to think it was merely ridiculous. They could not understand. They said how the animals could bring themselves to sing such contemptible rubbish. Any animal caught singing was given a flogging on the spot, and yet the song was irrepressible. The blackbirds whistled it, in the hedges. The pigeons cooted in the elms. It got into the din of the smithies and the tune of the church bells. When the human beings listened to it, they secretly trembled, hearing in a prophecy of future doom. In early October, when the corn was cut and stacked, some of it was already threshed and flighted. Of pigeons came whirling through the air and lighted the yard of Animal Farm, the wildest excitement. Jones and all his men, with half a dozen others from Foxwood and Pinchfield, had entered the 5-barreled gate and was coming up the cart track that led to the farm. They were carrying sticks, except Jones, who was marching ahead, with a gun in his hand. Obviously, they were going to attempt to recapture the farm. This had been expected, and all preparations had been made. Snowball, who had studied an old book of Julius Caesar's campaigns, which he had found in the farmhouse, was in charge of the fence operation. He gave the orders quickly, and in a couple minutes every animal was at its post. As the human beings approached the farm building, Snowball launched his first attack. All the pigeons, to the number of 35, flew over the men's heads and muted upon them from midair.
What's that mean? Well, I heard it means they pooped on them. Okay.
While the men were dealing with thieves who had been hiding among behind the hedge, rushed out and pecked viciously at the cows of their lay. However, this was only a light skirmish maneuver intended to create a little disorder, and the men easily drove the geese off with their sticks. Snowball launched his second line of attack. Mario, Benjamin, and all the sheep with Snowball had at them rushed forward, and butted the men from every side, while Benjamin turned around and lashed at them with his small. But once again, the men with their sticks and their nail boots were too strong for them. Suddenly, as a squeal from Snowball signaled for retreat, all the animals turned and fled to the gateway into the yard.